How's it going, everyone? It is Monday, November 25th, 2024. Let's take a look at the pick from the last video, which was AI. I liked how the stock had a ton of momentum, breaking through some longer term trend lines on heavy volume, great relative strength. And if I go back just to my trading view chart, I liked how it had to break through that IPOA VWAP. I was watching that level, and we got a test and a nice long green candle there. And it was important because last time we had a massive gap to that IPOA VWAP, and then we actually sold off pretty hard from it. So here we actually approached it, right? We kind of closed above it here, right? It wasn't like we were reaching super hard. We still reached a little bit, but we had some momentum to break through it. So I like AI. It's holding up pretty well. Let's take a look at some of the other YouTube picks for today, and then I'm going to go over the market analysis. So, or maybe I should do the market analysis first because that's going to contextualize some of these positions. Now, we got this gap up overnight. Not really any news, but we got a nice little move on the overseas market. Got a test of that all-time high, long red candle, slap down, and then you can see we had this choppy move lower, and then we had a selling climax. So, if I were to draw the channel here, right, we have this channel. Then we got another kind of, right, wide, choppy channel, kind of coming like that. And then we see that break of the downside, right? Break of the downside, test, fill in the gap. Then we get in the bounce. So given the price action, I thought, okay, well, we are moving lower, but we're not stacking red candles on super heavy volume. I think this move is mildly bearish, and let's set out a couple of scenarios for today. And I want to start with the shorter term position because that is going to actually influence the longer term market. You kind of have to go back and forth. So now shorter term technical here, probably right now I am maybe a 2 bullish at the moment, and we are testing the all-time high and watching to see the knockdown, right? So how far do we get knocked down from this level? Now, the main thing are the scenarios for today where we have this move down lower, and I thought, okay, this is a weak, bearish gap-filled reversal. We'll fill in the gap, but I'd like to see an end-of-day bounce, ideally towards VWAP. So we don't get this any kind of bearish engulfing candle. We actually hold, and we get a little bit of a tail on the D1. And you see we're kind of getting something like that. So I think a candle like this, right? If we got a candle like that, that would be fairly bullish. We're still closing above the prior day high. Any buyers who didn't get a chance, who weren't long in the overnight move, had a chance to join in on that move right over here, and we're forming a little bit of support. Now, we still have to see if this ends up being a higher low and we start to rally up higher, or if it ends up being a top and we start to fall down lower. I think it's still a little bit too early to say, but given the bias is strong, I think we have a good chance of at least testing 600 this week. And what I'm personally looking for is to see how far we get knocked down. So when we approach these all-time highs, right, here's our 600, here's our move. We got knocked down pretty much all the way to the gap, 585, 584, 583, something like that. Now we're testing this all-time high again. Now we may not clear it immediately, right, because we had a big gap up. We moved up pretty fast. And, there's not really any sort of material change, right? Here's a big gap up on heavy news. That had followed through because there was some news to spark that. Not really any news this week. Thanksgiving week, light volume. So instead, this is more likely to be faded. And we can see that in the first price action. We got this bar that poked through the new low of the day over here. Yeah, we had a nice chance to fade that. You can see that we're getting lower highs. And we're just kind of dripping lower, get out of the selling climax. Now, if we get knocked down, let's say we get knocked down to 593-ish, that's what I would be looking at because that would tie in pretty nicely to the, I'm going to unhide that drawing here. It's going to be a little crazy, so ignore the mess, but we kind of hold this gap. We also hold this AVWAP from the from the election and from the prior all-time high that lines up around 593. So if we get knocked back and hold that, I'm cool with that level. I'm totally cool with that. Right? we don't get knocked far, and that means when buyers bid, their bid is very close to that all-time high and are more likely to break out. So that's kind of what I'm watching for. That's one scenario that we're laying out. Now, the second scenario on a shorter term basis is we get an LPT day where we preserve half the gap and we're kind of between the gap and the high of the day. Now, I thought there was a pretty not as likely chance of this happening, but this is based on the first hour candles. So we're looking at something like here, right? I'm like, all right, look, if we preserve this and we're kind of chopping around here, that's pretty bullish, right? It means buyers are bidding in here. They're pretty, they're a little more aggressive on this move. They didn't wait for price to come down over here. The other scenario, the last scenario, is that we have a strong bearish reversal day where we blow through the gap and we test the prior day low. So we really get some long red candles that come down through here. Give this a 15% chance. It didn't seem likely based on this price action, and we needed more organized selling very, very early, right? So this tells me that, okay, there's some buyers here, not crazy about it, and we can wait on that. We can really wait on that. I bet, I haven't seen, but if I were to drop an AV up there, it's probably the prior day's AV up. Oh no, I guess not. Came in a little bit later in the day. All right. So we have this bearish move, right? We're a little bit bullish. Right now, last 40 minutes of the day, I feel like we have a decent chance of testing that 600 level. Let's go over some of the picks that we're in right now, how they're doing. So, AI is doing pretty good. I like how it's holding up, right? Stocks that aren't selling off too hard. AFRM is just grinding up higher. Some nice green, steady candles over here. Like that. Amazon, we took a partial loss here, but it is holding pretty well today. Right, gap up, holding that support. So has a chance to ride it out a little bit higher. We are in app. App is compressing a little bit, not doing a whole lot. Not anything super crazy to worry about, but looking to probably take some profits on this soonish. Right, kind of on that next leg up is when I'm going to start to scale out of the stocks that aren't really working. So Dash, nice little stock here that flat for the day, came back, found some support. Yeah, looking pretty good intraday. So just looking at our swings and seeing what's looking good intraday, what's not looking good. GoDaddy held that gap up, still green for the day, flat while the market's down. Really like what I'm seeing there. Netflix, bit of a bearish engulfing candle. All right, so we're not going to panic. This is a strong trend, and it's probably going to get bought back, right? You can see that this had a lot of stoppage pretty early. We're leaking a little bit lower here, which is not something that I like. But we're getting a lot of stoppage. Not super worried about it because, again, I sized for a big move, and I think that there's a good chance that this is not the top of the stock. Okay, Reddit pulling back after some news on Tencent. Still not worried about that stock. Little bit weak for the day, but didn't really do, kind of just compressing in my opinion. Team, a little bit of a bearish hammer here. But it's not super weak in my opinion. You can see how we found some support. We're finding some support at the prior day's high. We're getting these bounces. It took kind of later in the day for it to sell off in the market over here. But I like the strength on this stock. Last one over here is Twillo, TWLO. Again, holding up the gains pretty well. Finding some support here. Now, the one thing on Twillo that I am going to be careful of is that the IPO VWAP is pretty much right where the stock bounced. Whoops. Right over here. So that just tells me that, all right, look, maybe I want to take some profits over here. If the market tailwind is strong, we have a chance, I think, of breaking through this. But, if it starts to pitter-patter out, I'm going to take profits over here. So Twillo is just one to watch because I think this is a decently important technical level. This is a pretty big jump. We are still kind of grinding up high. We're churning up through this pretty quickly, but it's not going to stop, I think, the stock, but just something to keep an eye out for. Okay, couple picks that I like today. 2 picks I like quite a bit, and I'm probably going to take them just for a short-term overnight swing. First one here is Shop, Pulled back after earnings, found some support, getting through that A VWAP E. Really like this stock. Bounced up. I was looking for a bid, maybe a pullback towards VWAP on the market moving down, but looks like I may not quite get that. The other one I really like is UPST. It's going to load that guy up over here as well. All right, so why do I like this stock? We got this big breakout from earnings, long green candle, tested the open, test, held. Now we're starting to grind up higher and we're starting to get some liftoff. We're finally through that anchored VWAP, and I'm going to load it up on this chart over here. All right, so yeah, we're through this line. You can see that we broke through these levels. We got a test breaking above it over here. So I like UPSD. We also filled in the gap over here. So I like how we can lean on this gap fill resistance. This is a mover for sure. I'd size it for, holding 65-ish. So maybe a $15 move down. But I think this stock has a pretty decent chance of clearing the all-time high. And I think also has a pretty good chance of testing this level. So I think those are going to be my two overnight longs. Now, I want to see the market do this. I want to see the market probably hold this level. And I'd like to see it at least close closer to VWAP, in my opinion. That would get me a little more bullish. And it would make me a little more bullish on the D1 chart. Right? Because it would have a little bit of a longer tail. But I still think this is fairly, it's not super bearish. It's just, I think it's just a normal day of profit taking. We got a little bit too hot, came down, found some support at the bid. So I'd love to see the market get a little bit higher. But those are going to be my two picks for the day. I'm going to say SHOP and UPST for a short-term swing, an overnight swing. Now you got to play this pretty carefully, right? If the market's a little bit weak, right, you have a pretty tighter stop, right? Because the train is a little bit out of the gate. So, I wouldn't get anything too crazy, but I think there's a nice opportunity for a short-term swing in the stock. So that is UPSD. I'm also going to recommend SHOP. Give this a second to load. Yep, I like SHOP. I think it has a chance to pull back here. So might test this prior high, right? You can see that we usually get a test somewhere around the prior high is a pretty nice chance to enter. Stock is losing a little bit of relative strength here, and we can probably get in on a little end of day profit taking, get a nice price. So honestly, 111 would be great. I bid at 110, but didn't get the dip. So 111 I think is pretty doable, somewhere around the prior day high, this prior little relative high on SHOP. But yeah, those are the two picks of the day. So I'm going to add these to my YouTube picks. We're going to keep them short term because we already got a lot of positions on, and we're looking for a move up. So SHOP and UPST. Those are your picks for the day. Look, if this ends up being a bearish engulfing candle, you will always have time to exit your swings. This is the last thing I'm going to leave the video on over here. So, right, this is a quick markup on SPY. Right, look at this. So we got to move up. Here is a bearish engulfing candle, and I'm going to really zoom in here. Bearish engulfing candle, you can get a bounce off on the next day. Bearish engulfing candle, take profits, get out of your longs on the next day, right? We get a new all-time high, deep drop, a couple days of selling, right? Get out on the next leg higher on the test double top. Bearish engulfing candle, get out the double top, right? Ride the swings here. Bearish engulfing candle, get out the next day, right? Make a new all-time high. Big gap up to all-time high. Test support, exit at the double top, right? You have a lot of time over here. You usually have like 2 weeks, 1 week to exit out of your longs. The market doesn't just stop and then immediately reverse. Here's a period. I mean, there's some seasonality here. Well, a little bit, the bid actually has softened before earnings. So this was a little bit tougher in my opinion, but we already knew that the move had kind of floated up higher, low volume move, and didn't have a test of support. So we have to be a little bit more careful on this move. But my point is that you'll have time to get out of your longs. So this candle, right, is not like the other prior candles here. That's why we can be a little more careful. Now here we got a big gap up, and then you can see we had this bearish candle closing above AVWAP. So if you're super short term, you get out of your longs into strength or over here. Now, if like me, I was willing to hold through the dip and use this as support, test, grind up higher. So what do you think is going to happen next, right? Where do you think, where is it going to go here? Is it going to go here, right? Where do you think this move is, how do you think this move is going to look like? For me personally, I think we either maybe get one more day of selling and we move up higher, or we hold these gains and we start to test, poke and prod at 600, we push up higher. If we get another test and a bigger smackdown, or we compress here for a little bit, can't get anything going, okay, maybe I'll take some gains. Thanks for watching, everyone, and we will take a look at how SHOP and UPSD did in tomorrow's video.